September 1991, and as the WWF hits a post-SummerSlam slump, WCW, New Japan, All Japan, and Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling all get some shine and attention this month. WCW World Champion Lex Luger's #1 for September, as he built towards a showdown against Ron Simmons, ranked #2 for the month at next month's Halloween Havoc pay-per-view. On TV, heel champion Luger was continuing to square off against the twin challenges of Simmons and Barry Windham, now a fully fledged face again and coming in at #7. But it was Simmons who would get the first major title shot, and Luger and Simmons came to blows during the contract signing for that match at the Clash of the Champions Fall Brawl TV special this month. Simmons' college football credentials and community work were put over really strongly throughout the show, and the contract signing ended with a pull-apart brawl after Luger admitted Simmons was impressive and could work for him and his entourage as a chauffeur. Good old WCW got to get those racial stereotypes in when there's a black challenger. But in fairness, Ron Simmons was put over really strongly during the clash and all through the month. And while ratings and attendance were still not good, WCW was recovering its momentum nicely after a rocky couple of months after losing Ric Flair. The main event of the Clash of the Champions 16 show was the new veteran heel tag team of the Enforcers, Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko, winning the vacant World Tag Team titles by beating Rick Steiner and new strongman signing Bill Kazmaier, while Scott Steiner healed up from his biceps tear. After losing both Flair and Nikita Koloff from the top of the card, WCW seemed to remember they had former world champion in Larry Zbyszko on their books, and the bad guy pairing of Arn and Larry as the Enforcers was actually a really good combo and gave Zbyszko one last big run. The Enforcers come in at #3 for September. The Clash 16 show wasn't anything to write home about, but it did feel as if WCW was refocusing itself again. Barry Windham we've talked about at #7. Sting at #9 was the new US champion after winning a tournament last month and beat newcomer Johnny B. Bad at the Clash, only to then be attacked by the returning madman Cactus Jack. Cactus Jack and Abdullah the Butcher were being paid by someone mysterious to take Sting out of WCW forever. It couldn't possibly be his former friend and now world champion Lex Luger, could it? So yeah, hey, long-term storytelling, welcome back to WCW. Elsewhere in WCW, outside of the top 10, TV champion stunning Steve Austin beat the Z-Man at the Clash. Tom Zenk also now held the 6-man tag team titles alongside Dustin Rhodes and Big Josh. And the Patriots, Todd Champion and Firebreaker Chip, won the US tag team titles from the Freebirds. On to the WWF for September, and it was a rough month for the Fed after the highs of SummerSlam. World champion and top good guy Hulk Hogan was largely absent due to promoting his new movie Suburban Commando, while getting continually dogged by steroid questions on TV. And #2 face, the Ultimate Warrior, had been shockingly fired immediately after SummerSlam for holding Vince McMahon up for money. So with his two top stars out and crowds down, the company put all its eggs into the Sid Justice basket in September, with new signing Sid, who comes in at #4 for the month, taking over Warrior's house show program, main eventing and winning against The Undertaker. Sid really was being put over huge as the next big face in the WWF, and things might have gone very differently for him if he hadn't got injured almost immediately, which we'll cover off next month. Outside of the top 10 for the WWF, former WCW World Champion Ric Flair was now officially in, and it was absolutely bizarre seeing Flair debut on WWF TV after all this time as the face of the NWA, holding his NWA World title belt, which he was finally stripped of this month, proclaiming himself the real world's champion and immediately throwing out a challenge to Hogan for later in the year, although it looks like he'll work a program with Roddy Piper, who's spent most of the year announcing first. Interesting times for the WWF though. Interesting times in New Japan as well, as we have IWGP champion Tatsumi Fujinami at #5 and the Great Muta at number 6 for the month. They fought a big match at the company's huge Yokohama Arena show, the story being that Kiji Muto lost out to Masa Chono at last month's G1 Climax tournament, despite scoring pins over both reigning champ Tatsumi Fujinami and former champ Big Van Vader, and Muto's evil alter ego, the Great Muta, challenged Fujinami to a non-title match to prove he was just as much the future of the company as Masa Chono was. In the match, which I'll link to, Muta cheats like hell, mists the referee, smashes a bottle over Fujinami's head and registers a pinfall with a moonsault, and post-match Riki Choshu chastises Muta and says if he and the other musketeers, Chono and Hashimoto, think they can just take over New Japan from him and Fujinami, they can think again. Chono and Hiroshi Hase were kept strong too this month, and Akira Nagami remained the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. On to All Japan, and World Tag Team Champions Mitsuharu Misawa and Toshiaki Kawada come in at number 8 after retaining those belts over the Tsuruta Gun team of Triple Crown champion Jumbo Tsuruta and Akira Taue in the main event of this month's big Budokan Hall show. I'll give this my match of the month honours as well, and include a link to the match in the video description as usual, as well as a link to Joseph Montesilo's excellent Walking the King's Road episode about why this match is another great chapter in the evolution of All Japan's King's Road long-term storytelling style. Honestly, as big of a fan of All Japan in this time period as I am, the Super Generation Army faction of Misawa, Kawada and Kobashi had been on the back foot to Jumbo and his heel stable for most of the year, and All Japan did feel as if it was losing a little bit of steam and treading water at this point after their superb 1990. So Misawa and Kawada getting a clean win over Jumbo and Taue, particularly with champion Jumbo tapping out to a Misawa facelock, did feel genuinely big in re-establishing the Super Generation Army heading into the back end of 91. Surprise debutant into the top 10 at number 10 and making his debut into the PMP 50 as well, which we'll get to shortly, is Atsushi Onita, the champion and promoter of Japanese deathmatch company Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, or FMW, who staged their biggest show to date, their second anniversary show, headlined by a no-rope exploding barbed wire cage death match between Onita and Tarzan Goto in front of 33,000 plus fans at Kawasaki Stadium. Again, I'll include a link, and although deathmatch wrestling isn't necessarily my thing, visually this is great. The camera work knocks spots off what New Japan and All Japan were doing at the time. Onita wins the match after various explosions and both of them getting cut up by the barbed wire cage, and after the bell Onita douses himself with a bucket of water from the burns and then helps Goto into a waiting ambulance. The match itself is extremely basic. I mean, there's a reason it's called garbage wrestling, but this was a huge show that brought deathmatch wrestling into the mainstream in Japan and showed that Onita and FMW were serious about becoming a genuine alternative to the big two. FMW's influence was huge from ECW through to AEW. John Moxley's Wild Thing entrance is a direct tribute to Onita, and it was this month, September 91, that FMW and Onita truly arrived as a force to be reckoned with in Japanese wrestling. Right, quick recap of the other feds then onto this month's PMP 50. In Mexico's EMLL, Conan was still being pushed as the company's top technico and beat Perro Aguayo and Cien Caras in a three-way Luchas de Apuestas hair match at the company's big 58th anniversary show at the Arena Mexico. Other top technicos were veteran Rayo de Jalisco Jr., Ringo Mendoza and Annabelle. Other top rudos were El Satanico. In Memphis, Jerry Lawler began his 10th run as USWA champion, beating the Dragon Master, and in Portland, PNW was just about still hanging on as a territory at this point, with Steve Dahl as the PNW champion. So, how do the push scores for September affect the rolling PMP 50? As ever, the PMP 50 updates on a rolling month-by-month basis with weighted push scores for each company dependent on how big they were at the time. So we subtract the points for September 1990 and add the scores for September 91 to cover the 12-month period of October 1990 to September 91. Hogan, Warrior and Slaughter remain 1, 2 and 3, having split the WWF World title between them over the last 12 months. Tatsumi Fujinami bumps up a place to 4, having held New Japan's IWGP title for most of the year. Ric Flair dropping back to 5. Randy Savage and Sting stay at 6 and 7, while current WCW World Champion Lex Luger is a big mover into the top 10 at 8. WWF Tag Team Champions the Legion of Doom are at 9, while Mr. Perfect stays hovering around the top 10 at 10, despite being out injured right now. All Japan Triple Crown Champion Jumbo Tsuruta is at 11, Ted DiBiase, the Steiner brothers, who are still the IWGP Tag Team Champions despite Scott being out injured, New Japan's Ricochet and the WWF's Texas Tornado making up the top 15. The Undertaker keeps moving up at 16. I'm keeping the Hart Foundation as a tag team at 17 as they've been doubles champs for the first 6 months of this 12-month period, though I'll probably split them up next month with Bret Hart being Intercontinental Champion. I've combined the scores of Earthquake and Typhoon to officially anoint the Natural Disasters as a tag team. So my criteria for creating a tag team is that they've spent at least a third of a calendar year as a unit, which the Disasters now had. It means Earthquake drops a few spots and Typhoon gains a few spots, and number 18 is where they debut as a tag team. Arn Anderson and Barry Windham, like the Hart Foundation, remain a team for now at 19 and actually rise due to them both scoring good points independently. But again, I'll probably break them up next month, particularly as they were now on opposite sides of the heel babyface divide. Sid Justice moves up a place to 20. Ron Simmons makes a big jump up to 23 as a result of his strong singles face push and title shot in WCW. New Japan's Kiji Muto / the Great Muta moves up to 27. Outside of the top 30, Jerry Lawler bumps back up a couple of places to 35 after regaining the USWA title. New Japan's Masachono moving up to 38, and All Japan's Mitsuharu Misawa moving back up to 41. 3 new entries in this month's 50, signified by the yellow circles. First, we've got EMLL's Conan making his debut at 46, having won the big match at this month's anniversary Arena Mexico show. FMW's Deathmatch King Atsushi Onita makes his debut at 48, and New Japan's steady mid-carder Hiroshi Hase makes his debut at 49. So, with those 3 new entries in this month's 50, but combining the Natural Disasters into a new tag team, we only say goodbye to 2 acts this month, the WWF's model Rick Martel for now, and EMLL's Rayo de Jalisco Jr. yet again. And that leaves us with the WWF still dominant with 26 of the 50 spots, WCW with 9, New Japan on the rise with 7, All Japan still with 5, and 1 apiece for the USWA, EMLL and FMW. Join me next time for October 91, where we've got WCW's big Halloween Havoc pay-per-view and the WWF's European Rampage tour to mix things up. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave any comments below, and keep on with me through 1991, looking at who was being pushed hardest and where. Thanks again for watching. Cheers!